Good morning, fellow babies. Good morning here, maybe afternoon there. And welcome to Pachter Factor Live on SIFTD.net. If you are a Patreon patron or a YouTube subscriber, thanks very much. You are keeping Shane in chips so he can afford to keep the shows coming to you. So thanks very much for that. Whether you are a patron or not, if you can remember to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account, you can get Amazon to pay Shane $2.50 a month. So please re-up that if you haven't done it in a while, because you have to redo that each month. So just kind of remember to do it when you're watching Pachter Factor Live. So the topic this week is, what's going on with next-gen consoles. And obviously we have the Switch 2 out, saying how great it looks on a big screen television. And so Sony decided to try to one-up them and say PS6 is going to be, the most powerful hardware ever. They're going to focus on hardware and not focus on the cloud. We're going to get an even more powerful PlayStation for PS6. My guess is they'll wait for tariffs to kind of settle. I don't think they want to launch into an uncertain tariff environment. If tariffs continue through 26, it'll take an act of Congress to fix it, which means you guys should call your congressman and tell them you hate tariffs, and then you'll get a PlayStation 6 in 27. Based on Sony's pricing lately, I think they're going to charge $600-700 for this thing. I don't see how they would even remotely be able to make something with massive improvement in graphic fidelity for less than $600, and more likely I'd say $700. And I think they're feeling their oats. They're getting bold because you're not seeing price cuts for the PS5. And in fact, they're kind of offering accessories like PSVR 2 and the PS5 Pro that they're pricing higher, than past versions. So again, I think we're going to have a next-gen console and nobody's going to care. I think the improvement in graphic fidelity will please the super hardcore fanboys. I don't expect that you're going to see console game publishers support the next-gen console really big at the launch. The one possible exception is maybe you get GTA, 6 for the next gen, sometime in late 27. But I would say they probably don't care either. We'll just see how many they sell. In any case, I think that, PlayStation probably sees lower sales each generation going forward. I think they're chasing an old business model. I don't think they expand the market with a PlayStation 6. I think instead you see them, just each generation selling to the same people and selling just a few less because the price point keeps going up. Look, I think that PS5 Pro is doing so poorly at a high price that Sony's freaking out. And they think that people are waiting for the next gen console instead of people think that the PS5 Pro is just not worth $700. So I think they're going to compound that mistake by bringing out a PS6 at $700 and then say, look at what a bargain you're getting, a next gen console instead of a souped up old gen console. I think they're wrong, but I think that's how they think about it, that it can never be their fault. It's got to be the consumers really, really want the next gen console. And I do not think people want anything for $700. Moving on to Xbox, the Rogue Ally, that looks like the model for Xbox and the next Xbox. Not necessarily a handheld, possibly a handheld, but a device that allows you to stream any type of game from any type of source. So PC game, console game, anything that's available by any streaming service, and obviously play on your TV. And I think this is a step for Microsoft essentially to add a streaming box to the TV. So this is going to be a souped up version of a Roku stick that allows you to watch Netflix on your TV. They're going to let you play games. And I think that's smart. The Rogue Ally will have a controller. They may, in fact, make a Rogue box, Rogue console that has a separate game controller. But ultimately, I think Microsoft gets that the future is by expanding the market. And I think the day they can get out of the console business altogether and come up with a small, nimble device that will have enough storage and enough processing power that you can play multiplayer games using that as a local client and playing single player games fully in the cloud, that's where it's headed. Ultimately, you maybe can use your mobile device as your internet connection and play streaming with your mobile device, but play it on your television. So ultimately, I think Microsoft's headed in the direction that they're going to expand the market to billions of people rather than worrying about the hundreds of millions of people who are in a position to buy a console. And billions is better than hundreds of millions. So I think that their addressable market is 10x bigger with a streaming package. And if they manage it correctly and have ad-supported streaming, they can actually make a ton of money. Fine if they only make $5 per subscriber per month, if they have 300 million, 500 million subscribers. So that's how they're thinking about it, and I think that's probably where it's headed. And so I don't think the Rogue Ally or the Rogue console are going to really be that big of a deal. And I think, again, people will buy it if it's cheap. If it's $700, no. Microsoft's going to prove concept with the Rogue console. And, imagine if they do like PS3 graphics, that kind of quality, or PS4. That probably is doable for about $100 in the device. So I'd say a $100 device in 5 years after they launch the Rogue console is kind of where they're headed. So you'll see Microsoft, if they're really interested in doing what I suggest, dropping the price of their console every year thereafter, while Sony keeps coming out with souped up newer versions that are more expensive and more expensive. So we're going to see a divergence of the console market. Microsoft's going to try to turn everybody into a subscriber. Sony's going to try to keep everybody buying stuff. And I'd say it's very similar to movie theaters. Sony's committed to the pay-per-view movie model. Microsoft is looking more for the subscription Netflix all-you-can-eat model. They both can exist and do really well. And big games are going to be on pay first and subscription second. So Sony's right that they will continue to dominate, they and Nintendo, and Microsoft's right that there is a market for subscriptions. So I think both of them thrive. I just think that the number of consoles shrinks as technology expands and allows you to play on your television without any special any equipment, just with an internet connection and a game controller. Yeah, so the new device is very much going to be PC architecture, and the odds are that nothing will work on it but games that are built as a PC game. So the question is, do you get remastered Xbox games on the streaming service as rebuilt as PC games? Yes, of course you do. What's the cost to do that? Probably several $1 million, $5 million. So are you going to get hundreds and hundreds of games? No. You're going to get big games, big name games, FIFA, obviously. Anything that has a PC version, you'll get on the console for sure. But anything that doesn't have a PC version, Xbox exclusives, Microsoft will spend money to put it on in a PC version and put it on the streaming service. And, I think the downside is you don't have a library. The upside is you have access to Steam. So, Microsoft can let you play any Steam game on this console, and that'll work. So that's cool. So I'd say you probably win more than you lose, but backward compatibility, no chance. Not unless the developer remasters the game as a PC game. Fellow babies, that was the end of Pachter Factor Live. You can sign off if you've already linked your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. If you haven't done that, please, either any of the above, subscribe as a Patreon patron, subscribe as a YouTube subscriber, and/or please link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. It's easy to do. There are instructions in the show description below. Unfortunately, Amazon makes you re-up that every month. So if you haven't done it in a while, please check out the instructions below and link your account. It's 3 clicks. Shane gets paid. It costs you absolutely nothing. You're sticking it to Amazon. Thank you for joining us, my fellow babies. We will see you next week on Pachter Factor Live.